Thanks for tuning in to leftcoastnews.net, news and information from the wacky, sometimes communist, liberal West Coast of the United States. For more, visit leftcoastnews.net. On November 1st, Governor Jay Inslee activated some Washington National Guard members to be on standby in the event that they are asked to support local law enforcement and the Washington State Patrol during election week. The governor has given the adjutant general the authority to determine how many members of the Guard will be activated. This is purely a precautionary measure taken in response to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's nationwide warnings regarding threats to election infrastructure and other recent activities that have occurred in southwestern Washington. The Guard will be on standby for 4 days, beginning Monday, November 4th, and ending just after midnight on Thursday, November 7th. His letter to Major General Welsh said, based upon general and specific information and concerns regarding the potential for violence or other unlawful activity related to the 2024 general election, I want to ensure we are fully prepared to respond to any potential additional civil unrest of the type described in RCW 38.08.040 occurring within Washington State, leading up to, on, and potentially extending beyond November 5th, 2024, the date of the 2024 general election. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has warned that threats to election infrastructure during the 2024 election cycle remains high. The southwest region of Washington State has already experienced specific instances of election-related unrest. On October 28, 2024, an incendiary device was set off in a drop box in Vancouver, Washington, damaging or destroying hundreds of ballots, and a similar device targeted a ballot box in Portland, Oregon. In response to the situation described above and the potential for further violence and illegal activity, I am directing the Washington National Guard to prepare to provide critical public safety support by activating necessary Washington National Guard personnel in a standby status. In this role, the National Guard will support local law enforcement and the Washington State Patrol as needed. Our state depends on these skilled individuals for critical support to protect the public health, safety, and welfare, to include support necessary to protect vital infrastructure related to carrying out free and fair elections and to respond to any unrest related to the 2024 general election. Prepare to respond to civil unrest of the type already experienced. Will also require state-level coordination and the activation of additional support functions within Washington's emergency management system. Under RCW 38.08.040, I am authorized to order the Washington National Guard or any part thereof into active service of the state to perform such duty as I deem proper when required for the public health, safety, or welfare, and to provide for events described in RCW 38.08.040. I find that such preparation and this activation of the Washington National Guard is required now for the protection of public health, safety, or welfare of Washington state agencies and the people they serve. Therefore, I, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, pursuant to RCW 38.08.040, and in response to the above referenced request, and believing such action is necessary for preserving public health, safety, and welfare, order into temporary active state service for up to 4 days, beginning Monday, November 4th, 2024, as many members of the Washington National Guard as may be necessary and deemed appropriate for the circumstances described above in the opinion of the Adjutant General of the Washington State Military Department to support public safety efforts related to the 2024 elections, as well as activation of support functions within Washington's emergency management system. This order of activation expires 12:01 a.m. on November 8th, 2024. Inslee did not disclose how many troops will be activated on Tuesday, but said they'll be available to support law enforcement from Monday to Thursday, according to the news release. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has warned that threats to election infrastructure remain high. Based upon general and specific information and concerns regarding the potential for violence or unlawful activity related to the 2024 general election, I want to ensure we are fully prepared to respond to any potential additional civil unrest, Inslee said. What do you think of that? Of course, Inslee activated the National Guard in May of 2020 when that whole CHOP thing was going on in Seattle, Summer of Love. They activated, I believe, 600 troops is what they activated for that. 600 unarmed troops, which is useless. So it'll be interesting to see what they do now. Oregon and Nevada have also activated their National Guard. In Oregon, Governor Tina Kotek said in a statement Friday the National Guard is standing ready as political leaders call for peaceful protests. The governor's office is also closely monitoring and coordinating with local, state, and federal agencies to ensure Oregon voters can safely cast their ballot. While there is no current information to suggest unrest, Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler said, according to KTVZ, there is a lot of uncertainty and tension in our community. Oregon State Police is also coordinating with law enforcement in Portland, along with the Oregon Department of Emergency Management. Portland's Unified Command, which includes city police, is increasing staffing on Tuesday as a precaution, according to a news release. In 2020, former Governor Oregon Kate Brown also put the National Guard on standby for a 48-hour period around Election Day. In recent years, the National Guard has been activated in several states to assist largely with cybersecurity threats during elections. The Colorado National Guard's Cyber Task Force has been activated this year, a practice in place since 2018 to safeguard election infrastructure, the Office of Colorado's Secretary of State said in a statement. Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo this week also announced that 60 National Guard troops are on standby in preparation for a safe and smooth election day. Woo, 60. This decision, which mirrors the state's routine preparation for past elections, was made after consultation with election officials and state leaders, Lombardo said in a statement. It is one of many proactive steps the state is taking to ensure all possible resources are in place for a timely response to any challenges that arise. The activation will support state and local resources on Election Day, the statement said. Preparations are also underway in D.C., where more than 3,000 police officers will work 12-hour shifts. To ensure security, police chiefs across the United States are making unprecedented plans for Election Day and the weeks that follow. The issue has become pressing for law enforcement since the January 6, 2021 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol that delayed certification of the last presidential election. Interesting. The civil unrest Inslee is referring to is the ballot boxes that were set on fire in Vancouver, 2 of them, and 1 in Portland. The man suspected of setting fires in ballot drop boxes in Oregon and Washington State is an experienced metal worker and may be planning additional attacks, authorities said Wednesday. Investigators believe the man who set the incendiary devices at the ballot boxes in Portland, Oregon, and nearby Vancouver had a wealth of experience in metal fabrication and welding, said Portland Police Bureau spokesperson Mike Benner. The way the devices were constructed and the way they were attached to the metal drop boxes showed that expertise, he said. Authorities described the suspect as a white male, aged 30 to 40, who is balding or has very short hair. Police previously said surveillance video showed the man driving a black or dark-colored 2001 to 2004 Volvo S60. The vehicle did not have a front license plate, but it did have a rear plate with unknown letters or numbers. The incendiary devices were marked with the message, "Free Gaza," according to a law enforcement official who spoke to the Associated Press on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss an ongoing investigation. A third device was placed at a different drop box in Vancouver earlier this month, also carried the words Free Palestine in addition to Free Gaza, the official said. Investigators are trying to identify the person responsible and the motive for the suspected arson attacks, which destroyed or damaged hundreds of ballots at the drop box in Vancouver on Monday when the box's fire suppression system didn't work as intended. What is the motive? What do you suppose the motive is? In case you didn't know, these people, the majority of the people who support the Free Palestine movement, do not support Kamala or Trump and feel that voting for either one of them is a vote for genocide. So there's your motive. And it's interesting because I see a lot of other people speculating that this was some conservative person, some right-winger that set these fires. Well, I figured initially that this was somebody, one of these Free Palestine people. It's interesting that this guy must probably has a good job if he's a metal worker, which is sort of not what a lot of these Free Palestinians and communists and socialists have, is good jobs. But, you know, there's always an exception to the rule. Speaking of votes, there are some interesting ballot measures on the ballot for initiatives. For Washington, Initiative 2109, if passed, would repeal the 7% capital gains tax imposed on sales and exchanges of long-term capital assets by individuals with capital gains over $250,000. Since 2022, sales included stocks, bonds, business interests, or other investments have been subjected to the capital gains tax. Money from the tax goes to measures like child care, subsidies for qualifying families, bonuses for child care centers offering hard-to-cover hours, and school construction. The tax went to the state Supreme Court in 2023 and was ruled constitutional, of course, by the Supreme Court appointed by Inslee. Roughly 4,000 Washingtonians paid the tax in 2023. Yes, let's make people who are doing well in the stock market pay for all your social BS programs. Initiative 2117, the initiative aims to repeal the 2021 Washington State Climate Commitment Act, a state law that provided a cap and invest program assigned to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 95% by 2050. The program sets a cap on the total carbon emissions within the state and forces businesses with emissions that exceed 25,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year to purchase allowance permits equal to their emissions, because, you know, money eliminates greenhouse gas. The passing of Initiative 2117 would prohibit state agencies from implementing any cap and trade or cap and tax programs. Tax, tax, tax. Initiative 2066 would prohibit state and local governments from restricting access to natural gas, and would prohibit the State Building Code Council from prohibiting, penalizing, and discouraging the use of natural gas in any building. If passed, I-2066 would also require gas companies, utility companies, or any city or town that provides natural gas to provide it to any person and or corporation, even if other energy services or sources may be available to them. Under Initiative 2066, the Washington Utilities and Transportation Commission would be prohibited from approving any multi-year rate plan requiring or incentivizing a natural gas or utility company to get rid of natural gas services. They also can't implement requirements that would make access to natural gas services cost prohibitive. We can't support our infrastructure on the electrical grid we have now. We have to have other options. But, you know, everything else is dirty. I remember when they told us electricity was the dirty, power source to have. And they wanted everybody on natural gas because it was so clean. Initiative 2124 is all about state long-term care insurance. The initiative would allow employees and self-employed workers to opt out of coverage under Washington Cares Washington Cares is paid for by a mandatory payroll tax and provides long-term health services such as nursing home care and home health care to qualifying individuals. Long-term, as in $35,000 maximum benefit, which would pay for several months of care if you were in a long-term care facility. This thing is a joke. The amount of money that kids, young adults will pay into this program, over $100,000, and you can only get 30-something grand out of it when you need it. What are they doing with all that extra money? Total ripoff. Completely worthless. Supporters of this initiative say that workers should have a choice to opt out of the program, no kidding, and may find long-term private care insurance to be better for them. People against the initiative say that millions of working Washingtonians are counting on the fund to pay for their care in case of injury or illness or their age. Voting yes would mean repealing the program. Yep. And like I said, 30 grand doesn't go very far when you're in a long-term care facility. Oregon has got one particularly communist measure that they're running. Measure 118 is a tax increase on corporations to distribute a rebate to residents, known as the Oregon rebate. This measure would increase the minimum tax on corporations with sales in Oregon of more than $25 million a year by 3% and distribute the money to Oregon residents beginning in 2025. Oregon residents who reside in the state for more than 200 days a year would be eligible for the benefit. The Oregon Department of Revenue estimated that the state would collect an additional $7 billion a year that would translate to an annual rebate of about $1,600 to every Oregonian, including minors. The chief petitioner is Antonio Gisbert, a former union organizer for the Oregon American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. Supporters of the measure include the Oregon Progressive Party and Oregon Working Families Party. Hundreds of businesses, Governor Tina Kotek, and state legislative leaders oppose the measure. California, of course, has no shortage of stupidity going on in this election. Proposition 36, which is before voters this November, would allow felony charges for certain drug possessions and thefts under $950 in value for offenders who have 2 prior similar convictions, while also increasing prison sentences for other drug and theft charges. Of course, I don't think that this is stupid, but the amount of flack that they're getting for wanting to increase this is extremely stupid. The Public Policy Institute of California found that shoplifting and commercial burglaries in 2023 were higher than before Prop 47 passed. Crime increases since the COVID-19 pandemic have helped retail theft numbers spike, with the report finding shoplifting statewide in 2023 was 28% higher than in pre-pandemic 2019, while commercial burglaries in 2023 were 6% above 2019 levels. Remember all these Democrats and liberals saying that crime is down? I wonder what happened. I mean, the rest of us saw what was happening every night on the news, but the brainwashed still wanted to say that everything was just fine. Crime is down. It's the best it's ever been. Californians have pushed back on the rise in crime, most notably by recalling in 2022 San Francisco District Attorney Chelsea Boudin, a left-wing nut prosecutor who favored a lenient approach to crime. Other district attorneys accused of being soft on crime are also in trouble in November, with Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon, a real a-hole, polling far behind his opponent. Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price also appears headed towards defeat in a recall effort. State Democratic leadership, including Governor Gavin Newsom, has sought to curb retail theft and crime through various initiatives and legislation, but many groups argue the ballot measure is a key part of turning the tide on crime in the Golden State. Proposition 36 has the backing of the California Republican Party, the California Retailers Association, the California District Attorneys Association, and several Republican and Democratic politicians. San Francisco Mayor London Breed and San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria, both Democrats, have also supported the measure. Prop 36 will make our community safer by creating real accountability. Imagine that. For those drug traffickers and criminals who repeatedly steal, while also providing meaningful treatment incentives for individuals with mental health and drug addiction issues. Californians for Safer Communities, the main group supporting the measure, said on its website. Most of the opposition comes from Democrats, including the California Democratic Party, with the main group opposing the measure, No on 36, claiming it wastes billions of taxpayer dollars and somehow makes California less safe. Okay. The most significant donor to the opposition campaign has been Netflix co-founder Reed Hastings' wife, Patty Quillen, who has donated $2.5 million to attempt to thwart the measure. She has previously donated to good old George Gascon, the embattled liberal Los Angeles DA, gave him $1.5 million. She gave $30 million to Gavi, the Bill Gates Vaccine Alliance nonprofit. She gave $1 million to California's failed Prop 16 effort to restore affirmative action. She also tried to save liberal San Francisco DA Chelsea Boudin. She gave $1 million to Prop 25 to get rid of cash bail and replace it with a risk-based algorithm. She gave $250K to Prop 17 that would allow parolees to vote. Don't you just love it when the super rich throw their money around to influence elections and the laws the rest of us get to deal with? She doesn't even live in California anymore. I bet her husband loves her wasting all this money that went to failed initiatives. Ah, rich people. Gotta love them. Last thing I want to leave you with, just days before the election, a new poll by self-described one of America's most trusted pollsters by the media has Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris leading Republican rival Donald Trump by 3 points in deep red Iowa. This poll surveyed, and this is the small print, by the way, this poll surveyed 808 likely Iowa voters between October 28th to the 31st and had a 3.4 margin of error. Of the respondents, 47% supported Vice President Harris and 44% supported former President Trump. The population of Iowa, this was not part of the small print, by the way, the population of Iowa is 3.2 million, which means they polled 0.025% of the population. And somehow this is considered one of the most trusted pollsters, highly accurate. Does that sound accurate to you? It's election day, folks. Be safe out there. Who knows what's going to happen today? No matter what happens, there's going to be a lot of pissed off people on either side. We probably won't even know today what really happened, but I suggest you settle in and buckle up because it's going to be a wild ride, whatever happens here. Be safe and vote. Thanks for listening to Left Coast News. For more, visit leftcoastnews.net. Please subscribe, like, and share to your social media. We appreciate your support.